Now, I want to read you a quote. We have to focus more on working class people and spend less time on issues like climate change. Who said that? Hey, they were your words, Joel Fitzgibbon. Mate, you've finally seen the light. I'm delighted to be. It means your party isn't meant to be the home to woke inner city elites spruiking their virtue left and right. What do you have to say about that?
I don't know about the finally bit, Corey, but they were obviously sage words and important words to ensure that the Labor Party is competitive at the next election. Look, the Labor Party has always been a party of change, and that was really important when we had inertia in public policy in this country, when our economy was stagnant. But we now live in a period of rapid change, almost revolutionary change, largely driven by technology. And these days, people are looking really for reassurance that they're not going to be affected by that change. But what the excessive progressives are doing in centre-left parties right around the country, now that they seem to have had their victory on change, is to look for new agendas. And of course, they look to climate change. And
I'm going to call you up on this, mate. Excessive progressives. They're feral lefties. Come on, you've got them in your own party. Matt Canavan, you might have a couple in your party too, I reckon.
We also have moderate progressives. And Labor will always be a progressive party, always looking to do things better and to make a better country for our people. But the excessive progressives are off on a tangent. Now they've been anti-coal for a long time. Now they're anti-gas and they're anti-diesel. But they're authoritative on climate change and identity politics and culture wars, issues which are 11th order issues for most Australians who are only concerned about paying the mortgage, their financial security and the health and safety of their families. That's what they are focused on, and that's what the Labor Party needs to be focused on.
Matt Canavan, quickly, Joel's onto something here, isn't he?
Well, yes, I think he is, Corey. Fortunately for me, I don't think the Labor Party's listening to Joel still, but he is onto something. I think it goes beyond and transcends just issues around climate change per se. There has been a bit of a split emerge in our community. There's different ways of describing the groups, but someone suggested to me the other day that there's a talking class that's arisen up that get paid, if you like, to talk about things, a professional class of people, obviously media commentators, but beyond that as well, advertising, these sort of executives. And then there's a doing class, people that still do things with their hands, whether it's make things, mine things, grow things, and the separation between those two in our societies, perhaps at the heart of a fair amount of division.
It sure is.
I would argue that...
Hey guys, hang on, Matt. I want to bring in the fourth wheel on this one. It's someone you're both familiar with, and here's his words. Treachery, looking for someone to blame, damaging to the Liberal brand. That was John Barilaro's fiery response to Malcolm Turnbull's most recent Upper Hunter by-election snub, where he chose to endorse an independent, which is a direct affront to the pro-coal National Party. Now, it's a sentiment that's been backed up today by Nationals Party elder John Anderson. He reckons the move is sad and it looks like payback. I say no kidding. But polling fresh out today shows that Turnbull's greenie evangelism may be making an impact. You see, a YouGov poll reveals the Nationals are struggling to hold the previously blue ribbon seat, meaning preference flows are going to be critical. Remember, this is a must-win seat for the Berejiklian government, which will be left up to 3 seats in minority unless the Nationals hold on to the coal mining district on Saturday. But hot tip, this is my call anyway, demonising coal is not the way to be victorious here. And certainly, listening to Turnbull, who says right-wing craziness drives the government on climate, isn't my recommendation either. John Barilaro joins me now. John, the ghost, are you worried he's going to whack a dent in the national votes? The polling suggests there's been a bit of a hit.
Corey, no, not at all. I think Malcolm has embraced an independent, and in my mind, that's the kiss of death for that independent. But, you know, the circumstances of this by-election, we're a third-term government. By-elections aren't normally on our side. If you look at the dying days of Labor in 2010, they lost the seat of Rye, the seat of Penrith in large swings against the government of the day. And so therefore history is not on our side. But, you know, we did win the Cootamundra and Murray by-elections when we were tested as Nats. we're mongrel fighters in campaigns, but I'm confident we'll get there. I don't agree with the YouGov poll. Very different to some of the data that we've seen on the ground and data that's been shared with us. So in my mind, it's a close fight. I don't deny that Eddie Holder seat with about 2.5%. So that's going to be a difficult fight. But we're in the race. We probably shouldn't even be in the race, but we're in the race. And that's because we've always backed coal. We've always backed mining. We've always backed agriculture. Of course, viticulture and the dairy industry. And we just haven't turned up on the eve of an election to promise a whole swag of election promises. We've been delivering for a long time. And, I think the voters out there here in the Upper Hunter, and I'm in Singleton at the moment, been out all day on pre-poll, they see that. And they also see the management of this government in relation to the pandemic, dealing with the pandemic, but also getting out of the pandemic, lifting restrictions and getting on with normal, and securing those jobs. It's all about job security. And our government stands for that.
But John, there's no going away from it. You sort of, the polls today are 25 or so %. You've dropped a fair bit. You've got 13 candidates in the race, I believe, competing for this seat. Preferences are going to be critical. How do you expect them to flow from some of the other parties, like One Nation, Shooters and Fishers, Labor and the Greens, I presume, won't go with you?
Well, again, there's a network of preferences between Labor, the Shooters, One Nation, the Greens, the Independents. It's a network, but no different in my seat of Monero, where I've been a marginal seat member for 3 elections and got over the line with a decent margin last time, or in the election of Cootamundra and Murray. In New South Wales state politics, it's non-preferential. So the Vote One campaign is something we push hard on. And we encourage people just to vote one. Why get caught up in those preference arrangements? Vote for your candidate. And what we've seen historically, there's about a 50% dropout in those preferences. Outside of those preferences, I'm comfortable with our primary vote, and I'm not going to disclose what that is, but it's better than what YouGov is showing. Okay. I'm confident that on the primary vote and the preference flows that we will get from a range of sources. There are a percentage of Shooter voters or One Nation voters that will come back to the Nats, as well as some of the independents. So, look, it's a tight race. I don't pretend it's not a tight race. The voters will get it right on Saturday, and it'll be based on job security, jobs, the economy. And as I said, Labor has turned up all of a sudden. I heard Joel Fitzgibbon earlier. They've just turned up and said they support coal and mining. But that's not true, because Joel is only one, and just like Jeff Drayton will be, one of a caucus and a membership which bought into the climate change story that we were facing as a nation that we had to deal with. And at the end of, and the only way to manage that was to get rid of coal and gas and everything else. But
it's true. I'm going to interrupt you there. You're happy to stay with us. I just want to go to Joel Fitzgibbon because I think it's a reasonable point. Joel, how can we trust Labor on this? I mean, this is like the big epiphany 24 hours before an election.
Disappointingly, I just missed John on the polling booth, the pre-poll today. I'll go back to what Matt said earlier. Matt suggested or claimed delight that I was still not being followed by my colleagues. Nothing could be more true. It's not just Jeff Drayton committing to the coal mining industry. A former coal miner and mining official himself, Jodie McKay, has made her support very, very clear.
Well, hang on. Joel.
Hang on, John. No, I gave you a fair go, John. I gave you a fair go.
I will go back to John in a second.
A multiplicity of federal shadow cabinet ministers have pledged their support for the coal mining industry. We had a gas agreement within the shadow cabinet when I was still there that made it clear we would support gas extraction, gas transportation, gas generation. So I don't know what more we need to say, John, and to Matt, to convince you. But my sense on the ground is that people are listening, and the fact that we have Jeff Drayton so respected in the community and so known for his support for the industry is helping us significantly on the ground in Upper Hunter.
Jeff himself...
Yeah, sorry, Matt, you go quickly and I'll go to John.
Okay, well, quickly, mate. Jeff himself said the other week words to the effect that he doesn't see a future for coal long term, and this is still the problem. The Labor Party here, whether it's Joel who thinks it's going to end in 10 years,
he didn't say that,
or Albo who thinks it's going to end in 5 years, they still have the white flag up, the Labor Party, for the coal industry. They're not
he didn't say that,
to fight for it forever. And I noticed John the other day John Barilaro very strongly said he thought coal in Hunter would be here forever. And it will be. The only people who will kill it will be ourselves, because there remains very strong demand for the high-quality thermal coal that exists in the Hunter region. And that demand will continue as long as the eye can see right now, because we're a small part of the market, but we're a very high-quality niche part.
All right,
Well,
John.
mate,
Hang on,
I've heard John Barilaro multiple times say that there is a transition taking place, and coal mining in that valley will eventually come to an end. I'm more on your side, Matt. I think Asian demand for both our metallurgical and thermal coal.
Well, hang on. Let's hear from the man himself, John.
Hang on.
Are you predicting the end of coal?
I'm the mining minister in New South Wales. I put out a future of coal statement. No one's ever done that before. It talks about coal for the next 50 and 60 years. It's a finite resource, but I'm still talking 50, 60 years. Jody, you say Jody now backs coal and mining. I call crap on that, and I'll tell you why. Narrabri gas. Let's talk gas. The transition generation, Narrabri gas, the Labor Party in New South Wales oppose it. They don't support it, and they attack the government on it. When it comes to mining and those projects that we've approved, Labor have attacked us. When it comes to agriculture, when we wanted to stop all those vegan trespassers, and I call them terrorists, of our farmers, to get on land, when we brought that legislation to the House, Labor voted against it. When we had the koala set last year, Labor attacks me because I'm fighting for farmers' rights. So you know what? On the eve of the election, Joel, you can say a lot. Jeff Drayden can say a lot, and I think he's mixed his words up a few times. And the truth is, Jody can say a lot, but the actions are clear. Don't turn up on election and think people haven't seen what you've done. My actions speak louder than my words, not Labor's.
John, Jeff Drayton is not a professional politician like you. You may accuse him of mixing up his words. I doubt that. But on the ground, there is no doubt that people in the community support him and respect him. We remain the underdogs. We've never won the seat. It's your seat. But you know you're in real trouble. I saw your Premier claiming underdog status big time on the news tonight. But don't say the Labor Party doesn't support Narrabri gas, because that simply is not true.
It's actually, no, Joel, they don't. They attack us. There's been motion after motion in the Parliament, backing in the shooters' position, The shooters vote with Labor 80% of the time. And they do not support Santos and Narrabri. And if you want, Jeff Drayden to come out tomorrow with Jody and say they actually back what's happening in Narrabri with Santos.
All right, fellas, I've got to take a break. Last word, Joel Fitzgibbon, are you going to win the Upper Hunter by-election on Saturday?
Well, I saw Jeff Drayton is $6, Corey, and I reckon that's worth a $10 bet. We remain the underdogs. As I said, we've never held the seat. And of course, there are 13 candidates in the field proliferating the primary vote, but we're a rough chance. So I think Jeff Drayton's been outstanding, and he's a good chance on Saturday.
John Barilaro, are you guys going to win?
Mate, I'm confident. I'm still confident it's going to be a tight fight. Sportsbet's got us at $1.20. Follow the money.
Follow the money. All right, thanks so much for your time tonight.